Tom saw John entering the bar and smiled when he saw his friend. Tom hoped that John would come in, despite the early evening and the fact that the bar was fairly empty. It had been several weeks since they had gotten together. John was busy with something going on in his life and became unavailable. Tom tried calling and emailing, but he couldn't get through to his friend and he was really worried. He even tried to stop by John's home and office, but John never seemed to be home. Tom really hoped that John's problems were solved, but the angry look on John's face told Tom that this was far from the case. Tom stood up to shake hands, but was suddenly thrown to the ground by a vicious right across from John to the jaw. Tom's head bounced off the nearby table as he fell to the floor. "What the hell?" muttered a stunned Tom, spitting out a bloody tooth. John stood over him, ready to hit him again. "You're a fucking bastard, you knew. You and your wife were laughing at me all this time because you knew. I bet you both got a huge kick out of how trusting I was." The rapid swelling of his jaw and the numbness of what was most likely a concussion made it difficult for Tom to concentrate. Tom didn't understand anything his friend was saying because it all made no sense to him. The only word that came out of Tom's lips was, "What?" A flurry of blows followed on Tom's ribs and legs. John shouted, "I'm sure it was a hell of a lot of fun that you hung out with me just so she could cheat on me. Hey, buddy, let's go to my father-in-law's cabin for the weekend. Hey, buddy, Emily bought us tickets to the concert you've been dying to see, which is only 3 hours away, so we need to stay the night. Any bullshit excuse to get me out of the house and out of this area so she can have sex with that creep? I should have seen this coming, but I never thought you would do this to me. I have no idea what I did to make you hate me so much to help her cheat on me, but not only are you a shitty person, you're also a shitty friend." By this time, several bar patrons had grabbed John and began to pull him back. Tom stared at his friend, stunned by the blows and puzzled by his friend's actions and words, with little understanding of what had happened. The bartender called the police as soon as the first punch was thrown, and luckily a patrol car was nearby. The ambulance took much longer to arrive, so while John was detained and placed in a patrol car, Tom struggled to his feet with the help of some strangers. The EMTs quickly assessed Tom and placed him on a gurney, strapping him tightly for transport to the emergency room. Tom lost consciousness before the ambulance even left the parking lot to the soothing wail of the siren. To him, it all seemed like a short, bad dream. When he slowly opened his eyes and woke up, he quickly realized that he was in a hospital. He saw cars and an ordinary standard hospital room with medical equipment and a 20-year-old television. It wasn't a nightmare, it was real. As he began to regain consciousness, Tom's wife, Emily, came in with tears running down her face. "I'm so sorry, baby. I wanted to be here when you woke up, but I left to call your parents and tell them you were okay. How do you feel?" Tom sat up a little on the bed and tried to gather his thoughts a little about what had happened when Emily sat down next to him and took his hand. Sleep and medication had relieved some of the swelling, so at least his words were understandable. "I do not know what happened. I've never seen him like this before. He said something about Amanda cheating on him and that we were helping her, that we caused this. His words made no sense." Emily's tears continued to fall as Tom continued. "Perhaps I heard wrong, but he seemed to think that he and I were only making these trips so that Amanda could cheat on him. This is crazy. Why would he think of something so crazy?" When Tom fell silent for a moment, he looked at Emily. Lowering her head, she whispered that she was very sorry. "I don't know what you're apologizing for. He hit me, and he had this crazy idea that we were helping her cheat." "It sounds so stupid. Why would he think that we would help her do something so harmful? What kind of terrible people could do this to someone they care about?" Tom looked at Emily as she raised her head. There was something wrong with the way she acted. Maybe he was out of his mind, but her behavior was really suspicious, since she was usually very vocal about her opinions, especially about relationships with close friends. She might have been shocked by the situation because it was not what she had imagined. Just as he was about to ask her what was going on, the doctor came in and said that the jaw was not broken or dislocated, only bruised. If Tom doesn't have a headache, he will be allowed to leave with Emily tonight. Tom's head hurt. But something was clearly wrong with Emily, so he obediently lied to the doctor that he felt fine, so he could leave. Time passed. The nurses worked conscientiously with the documents, so Tom did not have the opportunity to ask Emily what was happening, but one could hope that at home she would tell everything. They were both silent on the drive home as Emily drove. They didn't even turn on the music, they were just silent the whole way. Tom needed answers, but by the time he got home, he was exhausted and just wanted to sleep. A quick change of clothes, and Tom was exhausted and fell asleep. Emily curled up next to him, hugging him tightly with all her might. After his shower, Tom walked down the stairs and joined Emily in the kitchen. He was still in pain, but at least his head was clearer. Emily was already sitting at the table drinking her coffee, but when Tom joined her, he saw that she was deep in thought. Emily finally realized that Tom was in the room. She asked, "How are you feeling now?" "Okay, but I have a little headache, and everything hurts. A day of rest and I'll be fine. I still can't figure out what made John go so crazy." After taking a sip, Tom continued, "Did Amanda tell you anything? Have you talked to her since yesterday to find out what happened to him?" "I actually talked to her a little yesterday, and she was just as shocked as I was that he could do something like that to you." Tom looked at his wife as she spoke. It seemed like a measured and careful response, but there was something more. She seemed sad, which was inappropriate because it was the complete opposite of her usually bright personality. She was reserved. He thought that perhaps she was simply shaken by the attack, and that it had affected her more than he had initially thought. He reached out and took her hands in his. "It's okay, honey. I'm fine. I come to my senses." His shirt soon became wet from the flow of her tears. They hugged with the words, "I love you," holding each other tightly. They both called into work and spent the entire day at home. Tom didn't know what it was, but something besides physical pain was bothering him. Nothing about it all seemed to make any sense. John's attack out of the blue, accusing him and Emily of helping Amanda cheat. Emily suddenly become timid and reserved, her verified answers to basic questions. He wanted to press her again about her phone conversation with Amanda, but Emily was on the verge of tears, and he thought that now was not the best time for a showdown. Even though they both stayed home, they seemed to keep their distance. Tom sat in the backyard, watched the wind move the trees and grass, and thought. He needed to understand why John attacked him. They had been friends for a long time, and Tom had never seen John lose his temper without a good reason. Tom thought about his wife's words and couldn't remember her ever saying that John's wife had not cheated on him and had only told Emily that they were sorry for attacking Tom. We need to find out John's side of the story, and the best way to find out is from John himself. Although there was a risk that John might attack him again, it seemed like the most direct way to establish a basic understanding of what had happened. Tom will then sit down with Emily to talk about their roles in what happened and what made John think Emily and Tom were betraying him. Emily told Tom that she would stop by work briefly and pick up her laptop since she would be home for the rest of the week and didn't want to get too far behind her schedule. After she left, Tom decided to take a chance and visit John. On the way to John's house, Tom tried to call him to no avail. Tom hoped that John was already out of prison, so he took a taxi to John's house. If Tom is lucky, John will be there so they can figure out what caused this mess and get back to normal. At the entrance to John's house, Tom's stomach dropped when he saw Emily's car in the driveway. Instead of ringing the front doorbell, Tom walked to the back of the house until he was near the open window next to the kitchen. He stopped when he heard Emily talking to Amanda. Emily was no longer silent. She was clearly furious. "John overheard me talking about setting up a date and having your back for me." He heard a conversation that was clearly not intended for him. "So how does that explain why he attacked Tom?" "John heard me say that you would cover for me, and that Tom and John would be busy so that I could go out without arousing John's suspicions. He must have taken this to mean that Tom knew what was going on. I would have warned you if I had known. But it wasn't until Tom was attacked that I realized John knew. John is beyond angry. He even used his phone call from prison to tell me how much he hates me and that he would rather rot in prison than live with me anymore, along with all the other angry and hurtful words that only I could think of it. Emily wanted to sympathize with her friend, but it was Amanda who left John. Emily's stupidity in helping Amanda has already caused serious problems in her own marriage, and things could get worse when Tom finds out. She knew it was wrong to help a cheater, but she and Amanda were close friends, and she hoped that she would be content with a short fling or two and be a good wife to John again. Instead, Emily's support led to the worst, and now Emily will have to deal with the consequences in her own marriage because of Amanda, who couldn't keep her legs together. I know you have your problems, but so do I. Once Tom finds out what happened, my marriage will be in serious trouble. Why would your marriage be in trouble? You didn't go out for a walk, but Tom and John got the opportunity to have fun. Tom knows that you never cheated on him. If necessary, I will tell him that you never did. Of course, Tom couldn't see it, but he could tell from the tone of Emily's voice that she had closed her eyes and rubbed her forehead as she spoke. You really don't understand anything? I lied to him. I helped you scam his best friend. Because of me, his best friend attacked him. Do you really think he'll believe a word I tell him? And as for your help, you are the only person in this matter that he will hate even more than me. So do you think that he will listen to everything you say and believe such a liar? But you didn't do anything wrong. You didn't cheat. He should know this. It doesn't matter. I have no idea how to fix this. And if I don't have a solution by the time Tom finds out, my marriage will probably end the same way your marriage did. I can't believe what a fool I was for helping you. If I lose it, I'll never talk to you again. But you have always been a loving wife. He knows how much you love him. Yeah, sure. I'm such a loving wife that my support of my slutty girlfriend resulted in my husband getting his ass kicked by his best friend. You really don't understand this. What a fool you are. Do you think he will trust me now? At best, it will be years before he trusts me again. Tom heard enough and calmly returned to the street. Tom's resilient nature allowed him to remain calm and focus on the task at hand. While waiting for a taxi, he realized he needed to start setting things right, but first he needed to make sure he had all the facts. It's time to visit a friend. To say the desk sergeant and detectives were confused would be an understatement, but after years of dealing with strange incidents in police work, they simply shrugged when Tom said he wanted to pay bail. They smirked at John's look when he saw Tom pull him out and laughed openly when Tom told John to just shut up until he was told to talk. Confused, John followed Tom and silently got into the car. After Tom gave the driver the address, they sat in silence until they arrived at the crime scene. The same bartender was on duty. He was nervous and obviously afraid of trouble, but Tom quickly calmed him down, asking for a bottle of Glenmorangie Signet, 2 glasses, and to be left alone as they moved to a corner booth. Tom poured a generous portion into both glasses and pushed it towards John. They both drank and exchanged "fuck you" as a toast to the first drink. Tom looked at his friend. I didn't know about this setup. I just wanted to hang out and have a good time with you, and they used our friendship against you. They knew I would never agree to this, so they started their shitty scheme without me. John looked at his friend carefully. They had known each other for so long that he could always tell when Tom was talking nonsense, and so, from the expression on his face, it was clear that now Tom was being honest. Once the initial anger had passed and he had cooled down in prison, John was able to think rationally, or at least reasonable about what Tom told him. She tore my heart out, and your wife helped her. I gave our marriage everything I had, and it was a waste of time because she chose to follow some strange man into bed. Tom refilled the drinks and simply listened to his friend while John expressed his frustration and anger about his marriage. When the whiskey and verbalization of the event eventually calmed John down, he was able to apologize for the attack. I probably should have talked to you first, but I couldn't help myself. Finding out that my marriage and my friendship was over made me feel out of control. As much as it killed me that she cheated on me, the thought of you stabbing me in the back was even worse. Cheating was bad enough, but the thought of you laughing at me hurt even more. I'm really sorry. Tom grinned, sipping his whiskey. It's okay. I probably deserved it for having sex with your sister sometime during the Christmas holidays. How did you find out she was cheating? John shook his head. Very stupid. A few weeks ago, I thought something was wrong in my marriage, so I started to pull away. I eventually came to the conclusion that she must be cheating, so I prepared to hire a private investigator. But while I was at work, my phone started showing video and audio from the Ring camera on the front porch. Her motion sensor went off while Amanda was picking up an Amazon package while talking on the phone and making an appointment to have sex with someone. She said that you and Emily could help her just like before. It didn't sound like you didn't know what was going on. It sounded like you were actively participating in the deception. Tom stared at him, not believing his eyes. 2 marriages died because your wife couldn't close her legs and forgot about the camera. So Emily cheated too. I hadn't thought about it, but it makes sense that she would do the same thing she covered for my wife. Actually, I'm almost convinced that Emily didn't cheat. I heard them talking before they picked you up, and that convinced me that she wasn't out for a walk. So, if she didn't cheat, why do you want a divorce? Maybe it would be easier to forgive her if she slept with someone else. What happened is even worse for me. The problem is not betrayal, but trust. Not only has she repeatedly lied to me about her actions and your wife, but she has used our friendship to cover it up in the most evil way possible and make me an active participant in the deception. How can I stay married to her if I can't trust her anymore and my best friend hates her? Trust can be restored. I don't trust my wife at all, but Emily loves you. Are you sure this is the end? I think so. Trust cemented by time is not stronger. It is weaker. People may forgive, but they never forget. I'm not going to spend the rest of my life hoping that, in years to come, this will be just a faded memory. She knew what she was doing, and there was nothing she could say to solve the problem. It's time for me to leave and start over. John envied his friend. Despite all this, you will have an amicable divorce and you will both remain on good terms. I'll be trying to find a Mexican brothel so I can find Amanda the right job for her skill set and pay less child support. I am in awe of your ability to simply see life as it is. You determine your path and just live your life. Tom laughed. It felt like his world was ending, but he knew that in the long run, he would be okay. He went home and talked to Emily, but since she already knew what was going to happen, it would likely be relatively smooth sailing. She cried and begged for counseling, but she understood that he would not be able to come to terms with her behavior. It was out of character, and she knew it. It's time for him to take a new direction and look at his life with fresh eyes, because the chapter in his marriage to Emily is over. Subscribe to our channel so that your second chaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think about listening to the next one.